My guest today is Dr. Phil Arcuri. We're talking about neural networks. And Dr. Arcuri, artificial intelligence and neural networks have kind of been buzzwords in the past for the trading and financial industry, but most people don't really know what's going on there. What do these mean for the financial industry?
Well, artificial intelligence is the branch of computer science that tries to understand what intelligence is and tries to harness it so that we can, have machines that use some of the skills that biological systems have acquired over, years of evolution. For example, we're able to see, we're able to hear, all of our senses. And then on top of that, the processing of raw input, there's the thinking that goes on in between the ears. And it's kind of difficult to understand what that is. It's a philosophical study in the theoretical computer science area. But in the applied computer science area, it boils down to a set of algorithms that help us take data and make sense of it in the real world. And artificial neural networks are one of the technologies used in computer science to do that. A neural network is essentially an algorithm. It takes a set of inputs, it processes them in a specific way, characteristics of the neural network, and then it produces an output or outputs. And the way it does this is based on the biological nervous system, very loosely. The nervous system is an amazingly complicated thing, whether you're talking about the brain or the spinal cord and the peripheral nervous system. Just amazingly complicated. That's something that I studied when I was at Oxford. And did some simulations with differential equation models and so on. So I know that it's amazingly complicated. However, a neural network simplifies that down to its essence. And it essentially says we have these inputs, we're going to mix them in a variety of ways, and then we're going to produce an output. And the architecture of the neural network involves nodes and then connections. And the nodes are supposed to represent neurons, and the connections are the interconnections between the neurons. And in the human brain, there are billions of neurons and trillions or quadrillions of connections. And obviously, we can't simulate that to that degree in our computers. So the expected results of the neural networks have to be considered lesser than what we have with the biological system. Nonetheless, artificial neural networks are very good at certain problems, such as pattern recognition. And that's what the TradeShark software is using it for. We have these inputs, which are market time series for a variety of markets and intermarkets, and we process them together to produce predictions. And a neural network is a very good tool for this particular problem.
And I understand there's a learning component or a training component to the neural network as well.
Yeah, that's right. A neural network, when it first is assembled, doesn't have any ability, and you need to expose it to instances of the data. In this case, we're looking at a particular day, all the different prices for that day, for all the different markets that we're considering, and then we want to tell it what the expected output is for that day. And we might also be looking at all the previous days, up to however long you want to go back. And so we expose the market, the neural network, to that data, and we tell it this is the correct output. It then adjusts its internal weights, which are the connections between the different neural elements, and it gets a little closer to being good at predicting. We do that for lots and lots of data points over time. So we're using all the historical data that we can. And after a certain amount of training, the neural network has adjusted its internal connections to the point where it's able to recognize patterns that you and I wouldn't necessarily see. It's kind of like a nonlinear correlation analysis is the best way to describe it. And it's very powerful.
So Dr. Arcuri, I know that some people think that neural networks have no use, are not useful in the financial markets. Others find that they have a tremendous amount of advantage. What are your thoughts?
Well, neural networks got a bad rap back in the 60s and 70s when they were first coming out. There was a lot of hype. we're going to have thinking machines by the year 2000 and so on, and of course none of that came to pass. But you have to look at neural networks for what they are. They're simply a tool for approximating and extrapolating a time series in this particular case. It's a pattern recognition tool. It's an algorithm. It's an algorithm that lets you do nonlinear analysis of the data. Those are hard to come by in today's mathematical realm. Most people stick with the linear statistics. Nonlinear analysis is complicated, but the neural networks let you develop a model without any underlying assumptions about what the mechanisms are in the market. And that's very important because we don't understand what all of the driving forces are, behind the scenes.
So why neural networks in trading in the financial markets? Why are they such a good fit?
Well, that's a good question. Neural networks are very well suited towards pattern recognition. There are other algorithms out there that might do equally well. Some sorts of statistical analyses, for example. However, neural networks allow you to make assumption-free models. You don't have to understand the driving mechanisms that are behind the scenes. And in the trading markets, there's a lot of chaos and randomness. No one knows how much there is, but to some extent that would foil the normal statistical models. So I think that Lewis Mendelson and the TradeShark team chose neural networks specifically for TradeShark because of how well suited it is at the pattern recognition problem, and because it can easily digest inputs from many different markets. So this is the inner market analysis we're talking about now. You can feed that data in as inputs into the neural network very simply. It's another input to the neural net. And the neural net, as it's training, will determine which inputs are significant. So it will do the inner market analysis as you train it. So that's what I meant about assumption-free modeling. You don't have to know, this market, with this offset, is correlated or not. You don't have to do that analysis. The software does it for you.
Dr. Arcuri, so we're talking about neural networks as they're applied to the financial markets and trading, but actually neural networks are all around us in a lot of different applications.
Yes, that's true. In voice recognition, for example, neural networks have come a long way. I don't know if you remember when voice recognition software first came out, but it wasn't very intelligent. Now it's amazing. It very quickly learns the idiosyncrasies of your voice and is able to accurately represent on the screen what it is you're saying as you dictate to the computer.
It sounds like this is something that's been in research for a long time, but only recently available to individual traders, maybe to the big banks and things like that. But
absolutely,
how does the technology made it into the software available today on a desktop?
Well, I believe the TradeShark software was developed by a team of very qualified individuals who have been studying neural networks for some time. They are experts, and they have done all the hard work for the trader.
Sounds like there's a tremendous amount of technology that's gone into this, but as a trader who is not a PhD in mathematics, what does this look like on the screen to me, and how do I use it?
Well, that's the nice thing about the software, is it hides all that complexity. And you know that behind the scenes there's this incredibly complicated algorithm that's been put together by the TradeShark team, and it produces outputs that are very easy to understand. If we're talking about the neural index, which is their proprietary index for looking at difference between today's moving average of the price versus a future moving average of the price, it predicts either a 1, indicating the market's going up, or it predicts a 0, indicating the market's going down, or in about 10% of the cases, it predicts NA, which means, hey, we're in a sideways market and it can't make a prediction. So that's very simple to use.
One of the most important things, I think, for any trader is to actually recognize the signal when it comes to me. Is it easy to see the recommendation of the software?
Oh yeah, the TradeShark folks have done a really good job with their user interface. You can see in a very clear-cut manner the time series of the data and the predictions in a nice, clear histogram, so you can see trends immediately at a glance.
So even if I don't understand neural networks and how they work, it sounds like the TradeShark software gives me a tremendous edge or advantage because of what it knows inside.
That's right. It's easy to use, it's very clear in its predictions, and it's using very powerful algorithms that are, in the case of the neural index, about 80% accurate.
And this was tested across all kinds of markets, all kinds of time frames, and what were your results?
I looked at 359 markets, which is maybe going above and beyond the Call of Duty, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. And in that study, I found that the accuracy was just about 79%, with a standard deviation of 1.9%, which means the consistency of the predictions were very high. I found that to be true across up markets, down markets, or sideways markets. It didn't matter. It also didn't matter what type of market I was looking at. That's why I did so many markets. I was looking for an outlier, something that didn't work quite as well, but everything was very accurate.
In its essence, it sounds like any trader can look back and see a beautiful head and shoulders or a beautiful pattern after the fact. It's really capturing that before it happens or as it starts, and that's where it sounds like TradeShark really excels.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, I love this neural index indicator. It takes the 3-day moving average from today of the market you're looking at and compares it with the 3-day moving average a couple days in the future. So they're looking at a forecasted moving average, and if it's up or down, that's what we're getting. It's amazingly powerful. I've worked on looking at forecasting moving averages in the past in some of my work, and I can tell you can build some powerful trading systems on that basis. So yeah, this neural index is a powerful tool for the trader.
Dr. Arcuri, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Tim.
We've been talking about neural networks with Dr. Arcuri.